Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Planning and Development Council of the Town of Oakville. I see we have no regrets this evening. Do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest? Councillor Lapworth.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the advisory committee meetings, 4-6A, the owner of that property is a client of mine.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Adams.
Just as a matter of transparency, it's not a matter of pecuniary interest, and therefore I'll continue to take part in the debate. But with respect to item 3 and the related item on the Heritage Advisory Committee minutes, my brother does work for a different division of GE, and as I said, it's not a matter of pecuniary interest under the Conflict of Interest Act, so I'll continue to take part. But as a matter of transparency under our Code of Conduct, that's something I'll declare.
Thank you, Councillor. All right, Council, you have no consent items, public or confidential tonight, and there are no public hearing items, but your first discussion item is the notice of intention to demolish at 121 East Street. And before we do that, perhaps we could move into Committee of the Whole. A mover and seconder, Councillor Robinson, Councillor Duddick, all in favor? All right, we are in Committee of the Whole. Your first discussion item is 121 East Street, and the recommendation is that the report be received. Susan Shoppard, our Heritage Planner, is here if you want to report. How do you wish to proceed? Councillor Johnston.
I don't need a report. Be happy to move the staff recommendation.
Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. That brings us to our second discussion item, which is the Regional Official Plan Amendment number 39. And the presentation is from Diane Childs, the Manager of Long Range Planning. And you have a new version of the report in front of you, distributed at the meeting, with a slightly modified recommendation for clarity. Ms. Childs, Council looks forward to your information.
Excellent. Good evening. A little technical help. There you go. Good evening. The report in front of you tonight addresses the draft Regional Official Plan Amendment number 39 and the proposed updates to the best planning estimates. On May 24th, staff brought forward a report on the draft version of ROPA 39 dated April 2011. This May 24th report was forwarded to the region as input to their public consultation process. ROPA 39 has been revised to reflect comments received from both the public and the local municipalities through their public consultation process. So just quickly, with respect to what are the best planning estimates, they're working numbers based on the collective knowledge and understanding of regional and local municipal staff regarding when, where, and what development is likely to take place in the region over the planning horizon. They're intended to provide a consistent database for growth projections that are relied upon for various municipal regional master planning studies and projects. So the BPEs provide the following information for Halton Region and the 4 local municipalities by 5-year intervals to 2031. The total population and employment, occupied dwelling units, employment to population ratios, and traffic zone level dwelling units and employment forecasts. So why do you think next one. So why do we need to update the BPEs? It's a requirement of the recently regional adopted ROPA 38, which was their 5-year official plan review, which was adopted by Council in December 2009. It's still waiting for a decision from the province. What this ROPA 38 did was implement the growth plan by identifying how the region will provide 40% of all new residential units within the built-up area starting in 2015. BPEs are to be consistent with the planned growth in the region. In the Oakville context, the updated BPEs will be consistent with the Livable Oakville Plan and the North Oakville East and West secondary plans. Updated BPEs are necessary to plan for future infrastructure and to have new numbers to use for updating the development charges bylaw and other town studies. Other considerations that were looked at were to reflect local municipal growth visions, to optimize the use of infrastructure and resources, to reflect growth planned for improved secondary plans and development charges bylaws, and to plan for complete communities. Draft ROPA 39 introduces a new Table 2A, which outlines a number of new residential units and employment within each local municipality for each 5-year increment to 2031. It also includes policy changes to introduce Table 2A and new references to Table 2A throughout the regional official plan. It also introduces a new policy that allows municipalities to carry forward unused residential units to the following 5-year increment so that overall they will achieve the growth and the distribution to 2031. The growth plan requires Halton Region to accommodate for 780,000 people and 390,000 jobs by 2031. Out of this, Oakville is estimated to have just over 246,000 people and 128,000 jobs. The table on the screen above shows how the population and employment will be distributed throughout the 4 local municipalities by 2031. Oakville receives a large portion of the growth, followed closely by Milton, and this is simply because we are the municipalities which have the most amount of developable lands in the form of greenfields. The following few slides show the distribution of jobs and dwelling units within Oakville in 5-year increments from 2011 onward. In 2011, we are beginning to see very limited growth within North Oakville, primarily the Trinison development and others. In 2016, we begin to see more growth along the Dundas Street corridor within North Oakville in both residential units and employment. The employment growth here will generally be limited to office and retail type of jobs. In addition, you see the hospital lands and surrounding lands will begin to experience growth. 2021 is seeing development progressing in much the same manner as 2016 along the Dundas Street corridor. Growth has also expanded into the Phase 2 lands identified in the North Oakville Secondary Plan. In 2026, the growth areas are beginning to reach build-out, with the exception of the Midtown Core, whose growth is expected to extend beyond the 2031 horizon. The growth in North Oakville has also extended in the Phase 2 lands located east of Trafalgar Road. Finally, this is what we will look like in 2031. You can see from the map the distribution, how the majority of growth areas are developing nicely. Generally speaking, the best planning estimates presented in the draft version of ROPA 39, June 2011, which is the updated version you received today by memo, reflects the policies of the Livable Oakville Plan with respect to the anticipated growth within the identified growth areas and outside of the growth areas in the stable residential neighborhoods. The growth rate and distribution anticipated by the North Oakville Leasing Secretary Plan are also reflected. The employment forecasts reflect a slower rate of growth in the earlier years, 2011 and 2016, than that projected in the previous development charges background study. The draft PPEs project a 6% increase in employment between 2006 and 2011 and 14% between 2012 and 2016. Regional staff have revised the employment forecast in order to alleviate the town's concerns regarding the slower employment growth issue in the June 2011 version. In terms of process, Regional Official Plan Amendment 39 to implement the development phasing and best planning estimates commenced in March 2011. Open houses have been held in all 4 of the local municipalities. Updated draft versions of ROPA 39 were prepared in response to comments received from the local municipalities. The region will be bringing forward a report to Regional Planning and Public Works Committee on July 6th with the June 2011 ROPA 39 numbers, which have been provided to you this evening, and then bringing forward a report to Regional Council on July 13th for approval. Once the BPs are finalized and Regional Council has approved ROPA 39, the updated forecast will be used for various municipal and regional planning studies, projects, and master plan. As a result, as identified in the memorandum, staff is proposing new recommendations for Council to consider as follows. 1, that Planning Services Report PD 05311, Regional Official Plan Amendment number 39, dated June 2011, to implement phasing and best planning estimates be received for information. And 2, that the June 2011 best planning estimates of population, occupied dwelling units, and employment for the period 2011 to 2031, dated June 2011, as prepared by the Region of Halton, be endorsed.
Thank you very much
ends
for
my
the report. Councillor Adams?
Thank you very much. The colored map slides that you showed of Oakville, would you be able to show those or send those to us electronically so we can have color copies of those? And I assume those are based on the most recent updated
Yes.
modifications. Okay, thank you.
No, they're actually, I think, based on the May version. We just received the June version today, but we will update them and send them to you.
Councillor Elgar?
Thank you very much for your presentation. My concern is they're best planning estimates, but what happens if the development charges are not enough for the growth? And where I'm going with that is regard to modal split, where everything is based on a percentage that'll be using public transit rather than personal cars. Development charges are done looking in the rear view mirror, and we know the modal split's not 10%, and I believe the region now is saying they're going to go to 20%. Who's going to pick up the tab of running from 10 to 20? Like, if the best planning estimates change completely, where are we going with this?
Councillor, isn't that a regional question? The 10 to 20 modal split is not a town plan, that's a regional plan.
Well, I'm going to tell you, it's going to become a very municipal plan when in fact we have gridlock because we don't have the roads, and we're going to need the roads in order to get higher level of service, because this is a huge issue
And
going
July
forward.
6th and July 13th, I look forward to the answers that you'll get from these questions there, but I don't know how Ms. Childs can answer these.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, like, I expect her, what happens to our best planning estimates when we reach gridlock because nobody wants to cough up the money? What do we do? Do we take it back and say, I'm sorry, we can't grow?
Commissioner?
The best planning estimates are based on the current official plans that are out there, both at the region, and they reflect, as we're saying in the report, the town's official plans. If at the end of the analysis of the financial reporting that there is the inability to provide for that support, then we need to look back at amending the official plans, and that would follow through with amendments to best planning estimates, all within the context of the provincial legislation. So I think the opportunity is there through the Livable Oakville and through the region plans, through amendments, and not through this best planning estimates. This best planning estimates really just reflects the documents that have already been approved.
But that is based on the 20% modal split, am I correct? Right today?
The best planning estimates are just an estimate of the population and employment that the various official plans would result in. The modal split is a policy decision that would then inform the transportation master plan and would come after using these population numbers as information into understanding what is the impact of that 20% modal split.
Yeah, and that's where I was going, is understanding the impact that may have on our best planning estimates. You know, not this year, but going forward. Everything could have to change.
The best planning estimates are an input into that discussion. So I think the discussion on modal split and the impact of that comes through the transportation analysis and the DC bylaw. The best planning estimates are simply an input as base information to then have the discussion relative to those documents. So they would not define the modal split implications.
Going to be fun.
However, Councillor, at Regional Council, I would support attempting to persuade Council there to adopt targets and milestones to be measured annually or biannually, every 2 years, so that, the canary sings in the coal mine as soon as possible. All right. If there are no other questions, I have one. This has been before us several times, or three times, owing to the need for, I think, fulsome discussion between the staff of the region and the staff of the town. And I just want to ask the Commissioner, is it the case that with this report and this recommendation, we may take it that town staff are now fully satisfied with their arrangements with the regional staff on the BPEs?
Yes, with the June numbers coming out as recently as last week in the regional report, it reflects all of the discussions that we've had with regional staff, and town staff are satisfied with that.
Perfect. Thank you for that answer. I'll look for a motion then to adopt the recommendation as reworded in the memorandum distributed at the meeting. Councillor Knoll, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's adopted. That brings us to the heritage designation of GE Lamp Plant at 420 South Service Road East, and the recommendation is that the notice of intention to designate be issued. And do you need a report? Is there questions? How do you wish to proceed, Council? Councillor Knoll.
I'll move the staff recommendation, but I do note that the two gentlemen from GE are in the audience. I wasn't sure if they...
They're here if you have questions.
Okay, so I don't have questions. I'm very pleased with the staff report. It's fascinating. If you haven't actually read it, it's very interesting, and it's good news, so I'm going to support that and move the recommendation.
Yes. Thank you. Are there any members of the public with information for Council on this matter? That would include GE. Thank you very much. Then I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that is carried. Council, you have two remaining items. You have your advisory committee minutes, part of which Councillor Lapworth has declared a conflict on, so we'll take them in two parts. And I'm suggesting that we go there next before the confidential discussion item, in case you wish to go into camera on that discussion item. So I'll look for a motion around the advisory committee minutes. Councillor Adams? Councillor Adams moves, it's number 6A1 is the one that Councillor Lapworth has the conflict.
So the two recommendations are A and B, approving this.
Okay. All right. So the motion by Councillor Adams is that the following recommendations pertaining to items 6B of the Heritage Oakville Advisory Committee minutes from its meeting on June 14th, 2011 be approved and the remainder of the minutes be received. And that is the Heritage Permit application at 283 McDonald Road, a new garden shed, and that is for approval. And as that is the item on which Councillor Lapworth has not a conflict, we'll all vote on that one. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that carries. And now Councillor Adams has moved 6A, which is the Heritage Permit application for a new second-story rear addition at 299 Trafalgar Road. And on that one, Councillor Lapworth has declared a conflict, and he will not be voting on that one. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. That brings us to our remaining item of business, which is the confidential discussion item on litigation or potential litigation and solicitor-client privilege. Do you need to go into camera, or do you wish to? Councillor Duddick moves that we go into camera under the Municipal Act for the one of the purposes for which closing the meeting to the public is permitted, which is litigation or potential litigation and solicitor-client privilege. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Madam Clerk, that carries. Madam Clerk, would you prepare the chamber for an in-camera close to the public meeting? Council now resumes its meeting open to the public. We've met in a meeting closed to the public for the purpose of considering litigation or potential litigation and solicitor-client privilege, which is one of the permitted uses of a meeting closed to the public under the Municipal Act. And the chair will recognize Councillor Duddick. Would you like me to read the proposed motion? As I understand it, Councillor Duddick wishes to move the following motion with respect to confidential discussion item C1, 394 Lakeshore Road West OMB hearing. Recommendation 1, that staff be authorized to proceed in the appeals filed with the Ontario Municipal Board in case number PL 100710, substantially in accordance with option 1 described in the report from the legal department dated June 1st, 2011. And the remainder of the recommendations contained in the confidential legal department report dated June 1st, 2011 be approved. Do you so move? Thank you. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. Thank you, Council. Now that brings us to the need to rise and report to Council. And we just need a mover for that. Councillor Elgar, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. I rise and report that the Committee of the Whole has met and has made recommendations on discussion items 1, 2, and 3, confidential discussion item C1, and advisory committee minutes item 4 is noted by the clerk. I need a mover and seconder for this report. Councillor Elgar, Councillor Grant, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? The report is adopted. Is there any new business of an emergency, congratulatory, or condolence nature? Thank you. I need a mover and seconder for the bylaws. Councillor Johnston? Councillor Giddings, thank you. This would be approval for the following bylaws to be passed. 2011-71, a bylaw to declare that certain land is not subject to part lot control. And that's Block 25 of the National Homes subdivision. And 2011-80, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting of council. All in favor? Opposed? The bylaws are carried. That ends our agenda. Thank you for your time and attention. We are adjourned.